Good morning, everybody. All right. The next thing I'd like to do today is you already did the subnetting part. The next part of your task is you have to assign those IP address on devices. So first you build the network, and then you assign those IP address that you created last time on the network that you're going to create. And the tool that you're going to use to do that, to build the network, is a tool called a packet tracer. And you already know how to use that in the teacher training. I'll taught you how to do that. But just in case you forgot, I'm going to refresh your memory. Let's go back to the previous example, my first example that I solved on the board. So we were given two networks. The networks right there on the left having 60 IP address, and the network here on the right having 28 IP address. And based on the solution I wrote on the board, we were able to create a range in which we can use to assign to devices, both for these two subnets. Can you refresh my memory and tell me, based on the solution I wrote on the board, what usable range did we create here? Can you refresh my memory?
Wait, that I'm supposed to write on that board?
Sure.
Are you writing with a marker?
It's a smart pen.
A marker.
Do you remember the range? This is not so smart. This is nothing. Hold on. Okay, did you remember the range of IP address that we created on this subnet?
1 to 62.
1 to 62, very good. That 1 to 62. And on this subnet right here, do you remember the subnet that we created? It started with 65 up to, can you help me out? You must have taken a picture of it, right?
65 up to 127.
Not quite.
94.
Not quite. Almost 94. And we already know the subnet mask. The subnet mask that we got here was a /27. In fact, the answer is already there. And the slash here was a /26, which is this one. Okay. The subnet mask /26 and /27, when expressed in decimal, is equal to how much? For example, when you want to express /26 as a decimal number, what would the value be? Should be, the subnet mask should be 255, the 255, the 255. That's what, guys?
192.
192. Thank you so much. And this one right here should be equal to /27 should be equal to
255, 254.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this information are the things we need to assign IP address on a computer, as well as other information. Okay, for example, I'm gonna build this. Let us build a simple network that we're going to do on a packet tracer. This network here, I'm just gonna make it simple. I'm gonna connect one computer here. So your goal is to assign an IP address on this computer connected to a switch, and as well as an IP address on the interface of the router. So assume that this interface is called fast Ethernet 0/0. You will see that once you, I got it in my phone. You will see that later once you start building your network and you chose a router. You will know if you're connecting your interface on a fast Ethernet 0/0 or fast Ethernet 0/1. You will know that there's a label. Assume that you're connecting this part of the network into fast Ethernet 0/1. First, let's assign an IP address on this PC right here. I'm going to also connect one PC here, just to make it a network. Okay, we have to assign here three information. The IP address that we want to assign on this computer, followed by its subnet mask, followed by what we call default gateway. The default gateway is the IP address of the router that connects this computer. So for example, if I'm going to assign an IP here, I'm going to choose anywhere from this range. Okay, if I'm going to ask you here, can you assign the IP address, the last usable IP address for this computer, what would that be?
62.
62. So I'm going to write here And the subnet mask would be this one right here.
225.225.225.192.
And finally, the default gateway, which is the IP address of the router, which we have to assign also here. Okay, you have to assign an IP address on the fast Ethernet interface of the router, and it can come from anyone from this range. But if I ask you, can you please assign the first usable IP address to the fast Ethernet interface? What would that be?
1.
One. Okay, so I'm going to assign here 220.10.10.1. And the subnet mask is the same. Okay. So now that I have assigned an IP address on the interface of the router, this interface, this IP address on the interface of the router becomes the default gateway for this computer. So that means if there's any packet that's destined for another network or destined outside the network, this computer has to communicate with the router. And the way it does that is it communicates by getting the IP address of the router. The purpose of the default gateway is if you have packet destined for outside, or destined outside the coverage of the router, maybe here, the computer will send that packet to the interface of the router. It's like telling, hey router, I have a packet outside, can you send it outside? So I give it to you. And the only way I can give this to the router is if I know the address of the router. So that's why the interface of the router should be assigned an IP address. So the default gateway is sorry, it's not so smart. Okay, that one. Okay. I think you still can read, right?
Close enough.
Bear with me. It's not so smart. I'm going to try my finger. Here, I'm going to send an IP address. It should come from this range. If I'm going to say that you have to assign the last usable IP address for this computer, it should be 94, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to try my finger. Even my finger is not cooperating. Ya Allah. That's 94. And then the subnet mask should be 255.255.255.224. And the IP address of the fast Ethernet 0/1 of this interface of the router should be assigned an IP address. And if the situation tells us that we have to assign the first usable IP address, it should be what? 65, you get the idea. So this should be 220.10.10. That's 65. So that same IP address is going to be the default gateway for this computer. Okay, so now with this, I want you to take a picture of it so that you have a reference. Okay, so now we have planned our network. This is probably what we call the planning stage because you're deciding what IP address to use. So now comes the implementation stage. So now we're going to build this